Today's question in the professional podcasting studio that definitely isn't my damp cold garage is, do I need to do lengthened partials? So, important stuff at the beginning of the episode. As always, lengthened partials is simply an approach to training where you intentionally limit the range of movement. So rather than going through the full range of movement, you do partial repetitions in the lengthened range. So good examples would be something like the bottom position of a push-up, where you are stretching and loading the pectoral muscles, but you're not locking out, you're not completely shortening the muscle. The bottom position of a squat, the bottom half of a leg extension, I suppose, as well. That's what lengthened partial is. And there's a reasonable amount of evidence to show that the work done in the lengthened range of the movement is slightly more impactful, important potentially, than the work done in the shortened range of movement. So what people have suggested is that you start doing lengthened partials within your program. So specifically limiting that range of movement. And so the question is, do I need to do lengthened partials? My response would be, you don't need to specifically program them, okay? Because chances are you're already struggling to tick off all your workouts across the week anyway. So in order for you to specifically intentionally do lengthened partials, you've got to take something you're already doing and remove it to make time. You can still do lengthened partials, you just don't need to do them intentionally. And I don't think that they matter that much right now to make them the foundation part of your program. But here's what you can do. You can just continue an exercise past the point of like technical failure, I suppose you might refer to it as. Take push-ups as a fantastic example. I love doing deficit push-ups, so I raise my hand on, 2 inches, 4 inches, something like that, so I can get a deeper stretch across the pecs, so the exercise is more effective. There will come a point where you cannot fully lock out a rep. So you go all the way down, you stretch your chest muscles out, and you press and lock out your arm. Then we'll get to a point within that set where you cannot complete that full range of movement anymore. Maybe you only get halfway up, no matter how hard you try. So a really simple thing you can do is just do a few more reps. And understand the fact that you're not going to lock them out, and therefore you're doing lengthened partials. You lower all the way down, you stretch your pecs, you stretch your chest muscles, which are your pecs, and then you press as hard as you can. You're only going to get halfway up. You do a couple more, and eventually you're only going to get a third of the way up. And you're just doing these partial repetitions in the lengthened range, therefore doing lengthened partials, but without having to specifically program for them and remove other things from your training plan. That's what I would do. Some examples that work really well. The chest muscle is a really obvious example. Push-ups are great. If you get access to like cable or a machine pec fly, same thing. You'll get to a point where you cannot fully shorten and squeeze your chest muscles, but you can still do sort of half the range of movement. Just do that. Get to technical failure and add 2 or 3 partial repetitions. You can do it with leg exercises. If you can't fully lock out a leg extension, usually that's where you will fail to complete the repetition. You try and bring your feet up as far as you can and you can't quite straighten your leg out. You can do a handful more repetitions of partial repetitions, working that length and range. There are some exercises it's probably not sensible for. Big compound movements, technical movements, like I probably wouldn't recommend doing it with deadlifts or back squats. So machine exercises, isolation exercises are going to tend to work a little bit better. So my stance, my opinion, my recommendation is that they are worth doing, but they aren't worth specifically programming for. And I think it's a fairly easy sort of like position to wrap your head around, I guess, and a fairly simple stance to take. There are some exercises where it's very easy to do lengthened partials by just going beyond that point of technical failure, full range of movement failure, whatever we're calling it. And you just go into that set going, right, I'm going to reach failure probably around 10 or 12 reps. And when I do, I'm going to do 3 or 4 partials. And if you do that over a handful of sets each workout over the course of a training week, then you will accumulate a bunch of lengthened partials. It's going to be a great training stimulus. It can also be good for mobility as well, because you're working that stretch portion where your mobility starts to suffer potentially, or where you kind of reach, not suffer, where you reach the end point of your mobility. That's all you need to do. I don't think, for most of you watching this, I don't think it's worth specifically programming lengthened partials. You can just do it on top of what you're already doing. So there we go. Hope that helps.